Okay, we've got transition question, for example, by contrast, nevertheless. Note two contrasting transitions. Doesn't always mean, though, they're exactly the same. So be careful of contrasting transitions in that way. And cause effect, therefore. So tulip mania, the rapid rise of sudden fall of the price of tulip bulbs in 17th century Amsterdam, is often cited as an example of the perils of rampant market speculation. However, recent research has demonstrated the episode was neither as frenzied nor as disastrous as has been thought. The popular myth surrounding it, blank, should be regarded with some skepticism. By contrast, nevertheless, therefore. So this could be contrasting. Let's just see. However, so that's contrasting. Recent research demonstrates that it's neither as friendly or disastrous as been thought. The popular myth surrounding it, for example, should be regarded. No, there's no example there. Therefore, should be regarded. Yeah, it's cause and effect, right? However, it's demonstrated that it's not as disastrous as a result, or therefore should be regarded with some skepticism. It's not contrasting transitions. Those aren't right. Size, okay, so transition words, indeed, that's emphasis, nevertheless, contrasting, additive, and cause effect. So these are some basic transitions. Seismologists such and such have proposed that the magma fueling Iceland's more than 30 active volcanoes systems emerges from deep within Earth. The great depths involved, nearly 30,000 kilometers, mark Iceland's volcanoes as extreme outliers. So we have a colon, and we have essentially what should be a related idea, is that these volcanoes are extreme outliers. Indeed, many of Earth's volcanoes are fed by shallow pockets of magma. Okay. Nevertheless, in addition, many of Earth's volcanoes are consequently, many of Earth's, no, the great depths involved mark Iceland's volcanoes as extreme outliers, blank. Many of Earth's volcanoes are fed by shallow pockets of magma less than 15 kilometers below the surface. So there's a contrasting idea here between the depth of the volcanoes in Iceland, the depth of a typical volcano. So I don't think it's going to be indeed, in addition, or consequently. I think it's contrasting, nevertheless. So the great depths involved are nearly 3,000 kilometers, semicolon. Nevertheless, many of Earth's volcanoes are fed by shallow pockets. In addition, many of Earth's volcanoes are fed by shallow pockets. Consequently, no, there's not a result. The only other possibility is indeed, emphasis. So the great depths are outliers, indeed, to emphasize many of Earth's volcanoes. I think that might actually be better. I think indeed is going to be the better answer. It's not really contrasting. I mean, these are contrasting ideas, but nevertheless, many of Earth's volcanoes are fed. Great depths involved mark Iceland's as outliers. We already say they're outliers, right? We don't need to say nevertheless and again. We should say indeed. We'll emphasize the idea that everything else is much, much shallower. It's not going to be B. A, indeed, emphasis should be the right answer. Okay. Transition ideas with its cliched imagery of suburban lawns and power lines. John Ashbery's 2004 poem, Ignorance of the Law is No Excuse, may seem barren terrain for critical analysis. Likewise, cultural critic Lauren Berlin finds fertile ground in just its first two stanzas, devoting most of a book chapter to deciphering the weight of the default space Ashbery creates in this poem. Nonetheless, contrasting in turn, also kind of changing direction, or in turn, cultural critic. So in turn, afterward, possibly, that's a possibility. That is. So with cliched imagery, suburban laws and power lines, that's been ignorance of it may seem barren terrain for critical analysis. Likewise, cultural critic. So cultural critic, she would be doing critical analysis. So it wouldn't be likewise. However, it could be I think it is nonetheless. So you might think this is not something that you'd have serious critical analysis of. Nonetheless, contrasting, cultural critic, somebody who would provide serious criticism, finds fertile ground in the stanzas of this poem. That's going to be it. It's not in turn, and it's not that is. This is a contrasting idea. B. Okay, we've got a transition question, nevertheless, contrasting, thus, cause effect. Likewise, that's comparison, moreover, additive. Okay, some basic transitions again. When designing costumes for film, American artist Sudirat blah blah typically custom fits the garments to each actor. Blank, the film Sunshine. So, moreover, the film Sunshine, likewise, thus, nevertheless. So, this person designs costumes for film. They custom fit the garments. But in this next sentence, for the film Sunshine, which the astronauts must reignite a dying sun, she designed a golden spacesuit and had a factory reproduce it. So this is non-custom. It's custom and not custom, right? Factory produced. So this is probably going to be contrasting. Fits the garments to each actor. Nevertheless, for this particular film, Sunshine, which astronauts reignite a dying sun, she designed a golden spaceship and had a factory reproduce it in standard size. In other words, not custom. These are going to be wrong. A is the answer. Okay, transitions for this reason. So that's cause effect. Moreover, additive, specifically focusing on maybe sort of an example, and that said. That said appears a lot too. So we've got a few new transitions that appear more than they did on the paper exam, like granted and that said. What is that said? That's really contrasting. It's like kind of like regardless or nevertheless. Boy, that was a terrible writing, regardless. Let me rewrite that. Regardless or nevertheless. That's kind of what that said is, even though we don't see it too often, but you do see it more on the digital exam. So, all right, well, let's look and see what's going on here. The sun and other stars are powered by nuclear fusion reactions in which two atoms collide to form a single heavier atom, releasing energy. Scientists have long believed that fusion has the potential to meet humanity's clean energy needs. Blank, prior to December 2022, no fusion reaction in a laboratory setting had ever generated a net energy gain. So we believe something that it's going to meet energy needs. Nevertheless, or that said, prior to December 2022, we never actually generated a fusion reaction that produces an energy gain. I think that's going to be it. That said, it's not for this reason. It's not cause effect, the previous sentence. It's not additive or similar to additive to the previous point. And it's not any kind of specific example. It's really contrasting, right? So in the sentence before it, we think it can meet our energy needs and release energy, but we've never actually created a reaction in the lab that generates net energy. So that said, D.